Hello and a warm welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the place where we take the complexity of learning and, well, we break it down into high-value, actionable insights just for you.
Our mission every single time is simple. It is to extract the most essential knowledge quickly.
And give you the confidence to use it immediately, clearly, and correctly.
Exactly.
And today we are focusing all our energy on making your English clearer, smoother, and just instantly more effective. We are diving deep into some usage tips from the fantastic learning channel, Native Year.
The goal here is to help you get that native fluency, that confidence that comes from knowing you are avoiding the most common pitfalls.
Right. Now, before we unpack this incredible material, I have to ask you, the learner, are you ready to stop making those tricky common mistakes that, well, that even advanced speakers struggle with?
Because what we cover today can fundamentally change how you communicate right now.
It can improve your results with very little effort. So to make sure you do not miss a single valuable lesson, please take immediate action. Like this deep dive, subscribe to Native Year right here, and share this with family and friends who are also learning English.
These quick, easy steps really do ensure you get all the knowledge we are about to share.
Our mission today is a deep dive into the top 5 most common grammar and usage mistakes that English learners make. And look, let us just acknowledge something important right at the start.
What is that?
The fear of making a mistake. It's absolutely real. But here's the secret, and it is a great one. Everyone makes them.
Well, even native speakers. All the time.
So the goal is not perfection, but progress and continuous improvement.
That is the perfect mindset to start with. I'm here to be your calm, insightful guide through this material, helping us connect these tricky rules to real-life applications.
So what is the plan?
We are going to provide crystal clear rules and practical scenarios for each point. We will present common usage scenarios, analyze the specific words and grammatical functions, and focus purely on practical application.
So these rules will lock into your memory.
That is the idea. So you can use them instinctively the next time you speak or write without any hesitation.
I love that approach because it sounds like we are building confidence one correct, well-understood sentence at a time. The pace today will be slow and deliberate, making sure every detail sinks in.
So, are we ready?
Let's jump straight into the first mistake, a tiny pairing of words that causes so much confusion globally.
Okay, let us start with one of the biggest challenges for learners, and that is knowing when to use to and when to use for.
Prepositions. They're often the hardest part of any language, are they not?
They really are because they do not translate directly, and their meaning is so dependent on context.
And it is extremely tricky because, depending on the context, they can sometimes sound similar in the flow of a sentence.
But switching them can change the meaning completely.
I know, when I was learning a new language, I always mix these up. I would say things like, thank you to help me, when the structure really required for.
Exactly. That small shift, thank you for helping me, immediately corrects the meaning. So let us break down the simple core rule for application first.
Okay.
Think of it this way, and this is the vital distinction. We use the word to when we talk about direction or transfer.
Direction or transfer.
Yes. This means physical movement towards something or specifying the receiver of an action or object. It defines the destination. It is about where something is, where it is going.
Got it. And what about for?
We use the word for when we talk about purpose, reason, or benefit.
So the why.
Exactly. It answers the question why you are doing something, or the person or thing benefiting from the action. It is about the motivation.
So to equals direction, transfer, or who gets it?
And for equals purpose, reason, or benefit, the motivation behind the action.
That conceptual distinction, destination versus motivation, that is a great way to start thinking about it.
Let us use the source material to really nail down this contrast. We can use the classic example of gifts or purchases. This contrasts the focus beautifully.
Okay, let us hear it.
Listen to the first sentence and focus on the destination. I give a gift to my friend.
Okay, in that case, the focus is entirely on the recipient. My friend is the receiver. The action of giving is directed towards them.
Right. That is the direction or receiver rule working perfectly.
It is the destination.
Now compare that to the second sentence, and this time, focus on the motivation. I buy a gift from my friend.
Here the focus shifts entirely. It is not about the movement. I am not talking about the delivery of the gift. I am talking about the motivation for the purchase.
Right. The purpose of buying the gift
is to benefit my friend.
Perfect. That is the core idea. To shows who receives something. For shows why you did something. Both sentences are correct, but they highlight fundamentally different aspects of the same event.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Connecting this to a professional or workplace scenario, because changing that one preposition can completely flip the meaning.
It can lead to serious confusion if you get it wrong.
So let us imagine I am talking to a colleague, maybe over email, and I say,
Can you send this report to me?
that is clear. I am the receiver. The report is directed to my inbox. I am expecting to receive the document.
But what if you say this instead? Can you send this report for me?
Oh, what is fascinating here is that the meaning changes completely. Now you are asking them to perform the action on your behalf.
Yes. The purpose of their action in sending the report is to benefit you or to fulfill your task.
It is a massive difference, determined entirely by changing to for. One means transfer, the other means substitution.
It truly is. This really highlights why focusing on those core concepts, destination versus purpose, is so critical for clarity, especially in professional communication.
Now, let us try to address some of the complexity that comes up. I often hear learners mix these up when describing future plans. For example, which one would be correct? I'm going to London for holiday, or I'm going for London to holiday.
That is a great real-life scenario, and you must use the destination rule first.
Okay.
So, I am going to London. London is the destination.
Right.
Then you use the purpose rule for a holiday. The holiday is the reason, the purpose.
So the full correct sentence is, I am going to London for a holiday. The structure always calls the concept.
Yes, the concept of destination with to will almost always come before the concept of motivation with for.
Understood.
Yep.
And the material also has a practical tip here that I think is gold for learners.
Yes, it is about certain verbs. Certain verbs commonly pair with to when you are addressing a person, especially in communication.
Why is that?
Well, these are verbs related to communication and focus because the action of communication is directed toward a receiver. If you are addressing a person directly, you almost always use to.
So verbs like
Explain, talk, speak, listen, write, dedicate.
let us try those examples out slowly, so you, the listener, can practice the pronunciation and link the verb to the preposition. So, listen to the teacher.
The attention is directed towards the teacher.
Speak to your boss.
The conversation is directed to your superior.
I explained the problem to my manager. The explanation was directed to the manager so they could receive the information.
It feels like a solid rule to hold on to. The transfer of information uses to.
It is extremely helpful if you are communicating or transferring information to is almost always the correct choice for the recipient.
Consider the difference here. You might work for your boss, meaning they benefit from your labor. That is the purpose.
Right.
But you talk to your boss, meaning you are directing your words to them. That is the direction, the receiver.
That distinction is excellent. The boss as a beneficiary versus the boss as a recipient of words.
Now, let us look at another tricky pairing, this time with infinitives. This is another common error.
Ah, yes. When do we use to and when do we use for before a verb?
We use to before a verb to express an infinitive or intention and action you are about to take. We use for before a verb, but it must be followed by the in form, the gerund, to express purpose.
Okay, so let us contrast those two.
For example, I came here to learn English. That is your intention, an infinitive.
Versus?
This machine is for making coffee. That is the object's purpose using a gerund.
So if you're stating the simple purpose of an object, you use for plus the ing form.
And if you are stating your personal intention or action, you use to plus the base verb. This adds another layer to the purpose rule for.
So if I were to say, I went to the store to buy milk, I'm using to because I'm expressing my intention.
Exactly.
But if I said, the store is for selling milk, I'm describing the store's purpose. That clarifies the verb usage beautifully.
That is the level of conceptual depth we need. And finally, as we noted before, to and for can absolutely appear in the same sentence.
Right, demonstrating both rules working at the same time, which shows true fluency.
Let's look at this one. I gave the book to John for his birthday.
Okay, let us unpack this one last time. To John handles the direction. He is the receiver.
And for his birthday, handles the purpose, the reason the action happened.
Both rules are present and working independently in one smooth sentence.
Exactly. It shows mastery when you can differentiate those two concepts within the same statement.
So what does this all mean for our listener? What is the final takeaway for this section?
The summary takeaway is simple and essential. To always implies movement, destination, or a receiver.
And for all always implies motivation, reason, or benefit.
If you ask yourself, where is it going? you should use to. If you ask, why am I doing this, you should use for, your usage will instantly improve.
Excellent. That is mistake number 1, conquered with depth and clarity. Let's move on to mistake number 2, which is another classic pair that confuses reporting verbs, say versus tell. So now we are talking about the reporting verbs, say versus tell. This is another one where native speakers switch between them effortlessly.
But for learners, knowing when to use which verb is a constant structural struggle, especially in reported speech.
It really is.
The core distillation of this problem is about focus and structure. We need to decide whether the focus is on the words spoken or the recipient of those words.
Okay, so let us start with say.
We use say when the focus is primarily on the words themselves, the message, or the exact quotations being delivered. It is the act of vocalizing the message.
And then tell.
We use tell when the focus is on the person being spoken to, the recipient of the information. It is the act of conveying information to a specific listener.
So say equals words, tell equals person. But here's the crucial grammatical tip, the aha moment that instantly clarifies the structural difference.
This is the most important rule to remember. Tell always requires the person, the object, immediately afterward. You must tell someone something.
But say does not require the person.
Exactly.
That is the structural difference that trips everyone up. Let us use the incorrect example from the source material to make this crystal clear. You cannot say she said me is wrong.
Correct. That is structurally incorrect in English because say cannot take a direct object immediately afterward.
So if you use tell, you must include the object.
Yes. She told me she was tired.
And if you use say, the object is optional or usually just omitted.
She said she was tired. The verb say just connects the speaker to the words. The verb tell connects the speaker to the listener.
So if I want to report what my manager said, I have two choices, depending on whether I want to mention the person I'm talking to.
Precisely. If you use say, my boss said I did a good job, the focus is on the words, I did a good job.
And if you use tell.
My boss told me I did a good job. Now the focus is on the person who received the news, which is me. And notice how the past tense of tell is told.
Right. Now let us introduce a potential complexity that I think our listeners will appreciate. If tell always requires a person, why do we have common phrases like time will tell, where there is no clear human object?
That is an excellent question. It shows a real depth of observation.
So how does that common phrase fit the rule?
The phrase time will tell is a perfect example of tell being used impersonally. Here, time acts as a metaphorical narrator, the conveyor of information.
And the listener, you, me, everyone, is the implied object.
Yes. In this case, tell means to reveal or to make known. The rule still applies conceptually. Something, in this case time, is conveying information to someone, us.
Ah, so it is an idiomatic use where the focus is still on the transmission of information to a recipient, even if the recipient is implied or the subject is abstract. That helps.
Exactly. Now let us look at quoting versus reporting, as this is another common split that determines usage.
Good idea.
Say is best for quoting the exact words. When you are acting as the voice that relays the original speaker's exact statement, you use say, he said, I am late.
You are interested in the literal dialogue.
Whereas tell is best for reporting the information, often paraphrased or summarized. He told me he was late.
You are reporting the content or the message, not necessarily quoting the exact dialogue.
That is a brilliant distinction. Say is for the verbal performance, tell is for the informational content.
Now we have to address a nuance that often confuses learners. The use of say to. For example, he said to me that he was late.
Right. While that structure is technically correct, because the object is now introduced by the preposition to, it feels a little stiff, a bit formal, does it not?
It breaks the smooth flow of conversation.
Precisely. While grammatically sound in normal, flowing conversation, told me is generally smoother and much more common.
So native speakers prefer the direct connection that is offered by tell when an object is present.
Yes. So while you can use say to, we highly recommend practicing told me to sound more natural and conversational.
I can hear the difference. He told me he was tired flows much better. It is more efficient than he said to me that he was tired. That is a key stylistic tip for fluency.
Let us also point out instances where the two verbs are simply not transferable. There are specific words or phrases that only work with one verb.
These are high-value collocations to memorize.
The source gives a great example. You can say hello, but you cannot tell hello.
Right. We say sorry, we say thank you, we say good morning.
That is right. Short, direct expressions of greeting or politeness are typically said.
And conversely, there are many common nouns that only pair with tell.
For example, you always tell a story.
You cannot say a story. That sounds completely wrong to my ear.
It is, and you always tell a truth. You always tell a lie. You always tell a joke.
So in these cases, where the word describes a narrative or an abstract concept being revealed, tell is the fixed verb.
So we have two different patterns emerging for tell. First, the structural rule. It needs a person or object.
And second, the collocation rule. It is required for narrative words like story or joke.
And if we look at the structural difference in indirect speech, this also helps learners. When moving from a direct quote to reported speech, tell makes the transformation easier.
How so?
Okay, direct speech. John said, I will be late.
Reported speech using say would be, John said that he would be late. Optional object, simple verb change.
But reported speech using tell is, John told me that he would be late. The required object, that immediate transition, the structure of tell, forces the speaker to address the recipient. It reinforces the rule.
So what does this all mean? The summary takeaway here is robust.
The summary takeaway is, say is about the words or the message itself.
And tell is about the person you speak to, and it requires that person, the object, in the sentence.
Master the object rule and memorize the key collocations like tell a story and tell the truth.
Fantastic. Two major hurdles overcome. Let us move on to a pairing that even advanced speakers struggle with, and that is do versus make.
This one is incredibly tricky because in many other languages, a single verb covers the ground that do and make cover in English.
Right. Both words relate to performing an action.
But English splits them based on the type of action and the outcome of that action.
Okay, let us get that simple rule breakdown established right away. But we must spend time on the examples because for this section, memorizing the collocations is often the most practical way to learn.
That is true. So the fundamental difference in English. We use do primarily for actions, work, or general and routine tasks.
So activities you repeat, duties you perform, work you undertake.
Exactly. The focus is on the process of performing the activity.
Okay, and make.
We use make primarily for creating or producing something. This can be something tangible, like a physical object, or something conceptual, like a plan, a decision, or a sound.
So the focus is on the result or the output.
Precisely.
That distinction process versus result is helpful. So do equals activities, routines, or work. Make equals creation, production, or generation.
Let us look at the contrasting examples from the source to solidify this idea. For example, I do my homework.
Okay, homework is a task. It is work I repeat regularly. I am focusing on the process of completing the task. So do fits the routine and task rule.
Now compare that to I make a cake.
A cake is a tangible produced item. I am creating something new. So make fits the creation rule. That makes perfect sense.
Right.
Now, I understand the tangible things like making a cake or making furniture, but where I personally struggle and where I think many learners struggle is with the non-tangible conceptual thing.
Like a decision.
Yes, exactly. Why do we say make a decision or make a suggestion, even though those are not physical things?
That is a fundamental question, and the answer goes back to the core concept of production. A decision or a suggestion is an output. It did not exist before you verbalized or formalized it.
So you generate the decision.
You produce the suggestion. Therefore, even non-physical things are made if they are the result of an effort or a thought process.
I see.
For example, you make a noise. The noise is an output you created with your voice. You make a point in a discussion. The point is a concept you generated.
That reframes the rule brilliantly. Make is the generation of any outcome, whether physical or conceptual.
Now let us dive deep into the essential collocations, starting with the do category. That is actions, routine, and work. These need to be practiced for instant recall.
Okay.
We use do for household chores.
Okay.
Do the dishes, do the laundry, do the cleaning.
And for non-specific actions.
Yes, like do anything, do nothing, do something.
Like for general work or business.
Do business, do a job, do research. The focus is on the ongoing work itself.
Let us look at those two contrasting pairs, because they are crucial. You do business, which is the general act of working.
But you make a deal. That is the created result of that work.
A perfect contrast.
Here are a few more vital do phrases. Do your best, which is the routine effort. Do a favor, the act of helping. And do damage, the resulting action.
That is a great set for the do category. Now, let us move to the make category. Creation, production, generation.
Right. We use make for food and drink, make breakfast, make a sandwich, make coffee.
And for communication.
Yes. Make a phone call, make a comment, make a speech.
And for money, planning, and effort.
Make money, make a plan, make an effort.
I think make an effort is a particularly good one because you are producing the effort. It is an output of your will. It is not a routine task like do the dishes.
Exactly. And now we must return to the essential exception, the one that confuses almost every learner.
Make a mistake?
Make a mistake, yes. Why is it correct to say make a mistake and incorrect to say do a mistake? This goes back to the concept of production. In English, a mistake is viewed as an outcome or a faulty result that you inadvertently created or produced.
So it is not a routine task you set out to perform.
No. When you realize the mistake, you realize you generated a faulty result.
So even though it is a negative thing, the mistake is still a creation in the conceptual sense. That is a truly effective way to view it. I am making an error, not performing an error as a routine.
Precisely. We do homework, but we make a mistake.
Okay, let us try to test the rule with a very tricky scenario for the learner. If I am talking about tidying my room, do I do the bed or make the bed?
Ah, that is a great one. The difference is subtle but important. Generally, we say make the bed.
And why is that?
Because you are creating a tidy, specific appearance, you are producing a desired outcome.
And if I was discussing the general routine of cleaning the room?
You might say, I do the room, but when focusing on that specific act, it is making the bed.
That reinforces the conceptual rule. Make for the specific created result.
Let us solidify this with a rapid-fire contrast test using these difficult collocations.
Okay, I'm ready.
I blank the arrangements for the party.
Arrangements are conceptual outputs, so I make the arrangements.
Good. I blank exercise 3 times a week.
Exercise is a general activity, a process, so I do exercise.
I blank a promise to my child.
A promise is a commitment you generate, so I make a promise.
One more. I blank my taxes every year.
Taxes are obligatory work. They are tasks, so I do my taxes.
Excellent.
I think the key here for our listeners is not just to memorize this list, but to repeatedly visualize the central concept. Activity versus creation, process versus result.
That is the perfect approach. And let us close this section with the short paragraph example from the source, which shows mastery of both verbs in one go.
Okay, let's hear it.
Listen to this slow and clear summary. I do my homework, and I make dinner. Sometimes I make mistakes, but I always do my best.
Every verb is perfectly placed according to the rules we just discussed. That is the level of clarity we are aiming for.
Exactly. That was a deep dive into usage. Now, let us smoothly transition to mistake number 4, the quantities.
That clarity on do versus make is vital. And speaking of things that require clarity, let us tackle a concept that trips up every learner, even advanced ones.
And that is correctly counting things, or more accurately, correctly quantifying nouns.
We are talking about much versus many.
Yes. Quantifiers are essential for measuring the world around us, and the simple rule here is based entirely on whether the noun you are describing is countable or uncountable.
Okay, so let's start with many.
We use many with countable nouns. These are things you can literally put a number in front of, things that have a clear plural form. 2 cars, 5 chairs, 10 apples.
And then we use much
With uncountable nouns. These are things you cannot count in discrete individual units or that exist in bulk or flow or as a concept, things like water, air, sugar, advice, knowledge.
That is a very clear rule. Countable gets many, uncountable gets much. I can count apples, so how many apples do you want? And I cannot count individual water molecules, so I do not have much water.
That is exactly right. But the confusion arises when we encounter nouns that seem countable in a general sense, but are treated as abstract, uncountable mass nouns in English.
This is where we need to spend some significant time for our learners.
Yes, I think we need to look closely at the trickiest nouns from the source material. The first one is time.
Right.
The general concept of time is uncountable in English. Even though we count the units hours or minutes, when referring to the abstract concept, we ask, how much time do you have left?
We do not say how many time.
No. The reason is that time is viewed as a continuous flowing substance rather than discrete static units.
That is a crucial conceptual distinction. We measure the amount of the flow, not the individual separate units of time.
Now for the second tricky noun, and perhaps the biggest source of confusion worldwide.
Money.
Money. We absolutely count money in the real world.
Yes, this is the classic confusion. Why is it much money if I can hold $10 in my hand?
The key is that we count the units of money. The dollars, the coins, the bills, the euros.
But the general noun, money itself,
is treated as an uncountable concept. It is a mass noun that represents wealth or a system of value. So the correct question is, how much money do you have? Never, how many money.
Okay, think of it this way. Money is like water. You do not count waters. You count cups of water.
That is the perfect analogy. You do not count monies, you count dollars or euros. You are quantifying the bulk substance, which is money, not the individual unit.
That is an incredibly important detail for learners to lock into memory. Always much money.
And the third critical detail is the word information.
I know this causes problems because learners want to say an information or many informations.
Information is always uncountable in English. It is abstract, like knowledge or advice. You must use much. How much information do you have? The word itself does not have a plural form.
And if you absolutely need to count or pluralize it,
You must use a container word or a modifying phrase, such as how many pieces of information or how many reports containing information. But in its base form, it remains uncountable.
okay, let us run a quick quiz format using the source examples to test our listeners' understanding and give them practice.
Ready? I do not need blank help with this project.
Help is abstract and uncountable, so I do not need much help.
There are blank books on the shelf.
Books are countable. There are many books on the shelf.
Do you have blank experience in this field?
Experience is conceptual and uncountable. Do you have much experience?
Perfect.
Now, let us discuss the vital context. Much and many are most often used in negative sentences or in questions. In positive affirmative sentences, native speakers often use a lot of, even with countable nouns, just because it sounds more natural.
That is a great observation about frequency. For example, we have many friends is technically correct.
But we have a lot of friends sounds much more natural and common in everyday speech.
This brings us to the final practical tip for beginners, the safe choice.
That is the beauty of a lot of. It is a versatile alternative that can be used correctly with both countable and uncountable nouns.
You can say a lot of apples, which is countable, and a lot of water, which is uncountable.
So if you are practicing conversation and you freeze up trying to decide between much or many,
Using a lot of is a perfectly natural and acceptable way to ensure your sentence is correct and fluent.
that is a wonderful safety net for building confidence.
Let us also introduce two related quantifiers that learners often confuse, a few and a little.
Okay, these two words mean some, but are they tied to the much and many rule?
Absolutely. A few is used for countable nouns, just like many. I have a few chairs left.
And a little is used for uncountable nouns,
Mhm.
just like much.
Yes, I have a little sugar left.
The rules for countability remain the same.
So we have a clear three-tiered system now. Large amounts, which are much or many,
Medium amounts, which is a lot of.
and small amounts, which are a few or a little.
That clarifies the entire system of quantification for the learner. So what does this all mean? The summary takeaway is simple.
Countable nouns use many and a few. Uncountable nouns use much and a little.
And for safety and natural positive speech, use a lot of.
Excellent. Now let us smoothly transition to our final and perhaps most detailed section. The notoriously difficult prepositions of place and time in, on, and at.
Prepositions are the small words that cause the biggest headaches, and in, on, and at are the culprits for both location and chronology.
We need to be incredibly detailed and deliberate here, as this is often the last grammar hurdle that advanced learners face.
The key to mastering this is conceptualizing the relationship spatially. The source material sets up the perfect framework.
Thinking of these prepositions as representing decreasing levels of size or specificity, let us use that visual idea.
Okay.
In equals big, general, or an enclosed space.
On equals medium, a surface, or a line.
And at equals small or a specific point. Hashtag tag A, prepositions of place.
Let us apply this scale to physical location first, focusing on where things are physically located.
We use in for large areas or general containers. Think of the biggest space you are situated within.
So, examples. I live in Cambodia. That is a country, a big area.
I work in an office. That is a general location, a container you are inside of.
You are in a building, in a city, in a park. The concept is enclosure.
Next, we move down the scale to on. This usually refers to a surface or sometimes a line.
Okay, like there is a picture on the wall. The picture is touching the surface of the wall.
The keys are on the desk.
We also use on for geographical lines, right?
Yes. The town is on the coast or the house is on the street. The street is viewed as a line you are situated on.
This is also where the critical transport rule comes into play. We use on for large public transport.
On the bus, on the train, on the plane.
And why is that on?
Because typically, these large vehicles are viewed as having an open platform or floor that you stand or sit on. You move around on the surface of the vehicle.
Okay. Now, let us move to the smallest, most specific point of location, which is at.
We use at for an exact point, a precise location, or a functional spot. I am at the bus stop. You are at that precise, specific location.
I am waiting at the crosswalk.
Yeah.
And we use at for addresses, too.
Yes. I live at 123 Main Street. That is a highly specific point. At pinpoints the location precisely.
Now, we must immediately address the exception to the transport rule.
The car and the taxi.
We must explicitly state that for small, personal vehicles where you are confined and cannot stand up or walk around, we use in.
I am in the car. I am in a taxi.
Now, for the true deep dive for advanced learners,
Yeah.
the difference between in and at when describing public buildings or institutions.
This is crucial for clarity.
Ah, the classic distinction. Are you in the hospital or at the hospital?
If you are in the hospital, the focus is on the enclosure, and you are usually a patient residing inside. It implies a state of being confined or receiving treatment.
But if you are at the hospital,
The focus is on the functional location. It often implies you are a visitor, an employee, or simply present at the general site.
and the same rule applies to universities.
Yes. So if I say, my sister is in university, I mean, she is enrolled and studying there, inside the system.
But if I say I am meeting her at the university, I mean I am meeting her at that specific location.
You have grasped the conceptual difference for the physical or systemic enclosure for the specific location point.
That is extremely helpful. To summarize place, in for large areas and containers, on for surfaces and big public transport, and for specific points or functional locations, hashtag B, prepositions of time.
Now let us apply the exact same scale, big, medium, small to time. The structure is identical, which makes it easier to remember.
That is helpful. So starting with the biggest scale.
We use in for long periods, years, decades, centuries, months, or general parts of the day.
So examples, in 2024 for a year,
Yeah.
in January for a month, in the future for a long general period.
And famously in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening.
Moving down to the medium scale, we use on for single days and specific dates.
Examples. On Monday, single day. On my birthday, a specific date. On October 20th, a full date.
So anytime the word day or a specific date is included, you use on.
Correct. Finally, we hit the smallest, most specific point of time with at.
We use at for exact clock times.
Yes. At 6 a.m., at midnight.
Now, there are a couple of phrases that defy the in the morning rule and use at, which we must reinforce.
At night, and at lunchtime.
Why is that?
They are treated as specific, pinpointed moments in the 24-hour cycle, unlike the more general morning or afternoon. They are fixed idiomatic phrases.
And mastering them improves fluency.
Also, we say at the moment, meaning this specific point in time.
Let us put the time scale together to show the decreasing specificity, using all three prepositions in one sentence.
You could be planning an activity that happens in the summer, but more specifically, it happens on the third Tuesday of July, and even more specifically, it happens at 3 p.m.
The scale is perfectly consistent across both place and time. That is a foundational piece of knowledge. Hashtag C, complex idiomatic prepositional phrases.
To truly prepare our advanced learners, we need to spend a moment on common idiomatic phrases that seem to break the rule.
But are simply fixed expressions you must memorize.
Yes.
This is where the simple rules give way to real-world usage. For example, why do we say we are on the phone?
That is a great example. You are using on because the phone is conceptualized as a line of communication that you are connected to or using.
Similar to being on the internet or on a specific frequency, it is about the connection, not the physical surface.
Exactly. Another confusing set is the use of in versus at when describing being busy. If I am occupied, do I say I am in work or at work?
Good question.
You are generally at work. This treats work as a functional location or activity point.
And if you say you are in work,
That generally means you are employed, part of the workforce, which is a broader, more abstract enclosure or state of being.
I see.
We also often use at for general activity locations, at the theater, at the mall, at the party. We are focused on the activity happening at that point.
Whereas if I say I left my wallet in the mall, I am focusing on the physical enclosure where the wallet is located. The distinction between the functional point, which is at, and the physical enclosure in is the key.
Absolutely. The learner must always ask, am I emphasizing the action happening at a point or the containment within a boundary?
That is fantastic. Let us try one final, extremely tricky practice round using the combination of time and place.
Ready. I will meet you blank. 7 a.m. blank, the park bench.
At 7 a.m. for the exact time and at the park bench for the specific point.
Perfect. We are having a meeting blank the afternoon blank Friday.
In the afternoon for the general period, and on Friday for the specific day.
The scale works beautifully for both place and time. In is big, on is medium, at is small and specific. Hashtag outro, host speaker, and expert speaker.
Okay, we've covered a tremendous amount of high-value practical grammar today. We've gone deep into 5 complex areas.
Before we wrap up, let us do a quick, comprehensive review of all 5 key points one last time using the simple summaries we established.
Absolutely. This quick review, spoken slowly and clearly, is essential for locking this knowledge into long-term memory.
Okay, mistake number 1, 2 versus 4.
2 is direction or receiver, force, purpose, reason, or benefit. Example: I gave the key to the security guard who opened the door for me.
Mistake number 2, say versus tell.
Say focuses on the words or the message, tell focuses on the person, and it always requires a person immediately afterward. Example: the news anchor said the weather was good, but she told me to take an umbrella.
Mistake number 3, do versus make.
Do is for actions, work, or routine tasks and processes. Make is for creating or producing a result, whether physical or conceptual. Example: I do the planning, and then I make the presentation.
Mistake number 4, much versus many.
Much is used with uncountable nouns like water, information, and money. Many is used with countable nouns like chairs, reports, and ideas.
And finally, mistake number 5, in, on, and at.
This is the big, medium, small rule for both time and place. In is a large area or a long time. On is a surface or a day. At is a specific point or an exact time. And remember the differences between at the hospital for a visitor and in the hospital for a patient.
Wow. We covered so much practical grammar in simple, clear English that is immediately applicable.
And here's the most important final encouragement for you, the learner. Remember that learning from mistakes is not a setback. It is the path to rapid progress.
Mistakes help us learn faster by highlighting exactly where the rules apply, often better than textbooks do.
This raises an important question for application. How do you take this knowledge and transition it into confident, effortless fluency?
The answer is active engagement and vocal repetition.
We strongly encourage you to actively engage with the content right now. Repeat the examples after us one more time, out loud. This repetition is vital.
It not only helps the grammar rules stick, but it also helps build muscle memory for your mouth and improves your pronunciation. It leads to quicker mastery.
Listen to this deep dive again later this week, perhaps while walking or doing routine tasks. Each time you revisit these rules, you will understand more, and your brain will process the correct sentences more easily.
This is how you transition from intellectually knowing the rule to instinctively using the language like a native speaker.
That is the ultimate goal, to sound like a professional communicator without having to stop and think about every single word.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this deep dive. We hope this session gave you the tools and the conceptual framework to conquer these 5 tricky English mistakes.
Practice speaking every day, even short sentences, and do not worry if you make mistakes. That is how you learn.
Exactly. Keep practicing, keep learning, and we will catch you on the next